So I've been told you've been taught a little bit of communication, and I won't touch on specific topics. I'll just use like a revision session. So I'll cover basically everything entrepreneurship. If you have any question, you can ask. We'll go through some past paper questions, what they ask mostly, what you're expected to know, some of the confusing things that are tricky to students is what we're going to cover. So that when you come out of here, we just want passes. So yeah, we just want passes. So I'm going to start with just what is basically entrepreneurship. This one, it's hard for them to ask, but it's good for you to know that an entrepreneur is someone who takes these, he starts an enterprise. So he takes the factors of production, which include labor, capital, and he brings them together to start an enterprise. So, which is different from self-employment, which is self-employment, you just start a business. So like, for example, in self-employment, you just get a shop, you talk to a supplier, brings you some stuff, and you start your shop. That is self-employment. But for in entrepreneurship, you get factors of production. You look for capital from a bank. You look for labor, maybe someone in IT. You look for someone in an engineer. You bring them together. So, which brings us to a question you can be asked, what is the difference between entrepreneurship and self-employment? So you say, like, for one, it's easier to get capital because like an entrepreneur, you're looking for capital from banks, you're getting skills from other people, but for the self-employed person, you're just using your skills. So if you did whatever skills you have, if you're an engineer and you decide to start a shop, let's say, you're bringing your engineering skills to the shop. If you're an IT person, you start a shop, you're only bringing IT skills to the shop. But for the entrepreneur, you're looking for other people to do that thing for you. So in entrepreneurship, you're not limited, but for self-employment, you're limited in terms of skills, in terms of capital, in terms of ideas, everything. So the first thing that you need to know when you go to that entrepreneurship exam is that there's no class you'll enter, entrepreneurship class you'll enter where they teach you everything. Some of the things you just have to, you get them in exam. You know, entrepreneurship is not, if you look at the objectives of KCE-Mumlock, it's not meant to teach you how to cram, like you cram advantages of business, advantages of entrepreneurship. It's meant to open up your mind so that if you have CPA, you've done your CPA, you can come with someone who's done another thing, you start something. So, yeah, instead of just being limited to self-employment. So with that, so first have an open mind and you will pass if you just have an open mind. Because if you ask like, which are the things that can, or hindrances to self-employment, you don't need to have read anywhere hindrances to self-employment. You just think, I have a shop, I've gone to university, I've done whatever course, which are the limitations I'll face. So one, you'll face the limitation of capital, money. Maybe you'll face the limitation of ideas. You'll face competition, government, Kina County Council, they're chasing you and everything. So, yeah, so first thing, be open-minded. Before you say, hii swali sijui, first exhaust everything in your mind. Just be creative. And if you do that, I'm sure you'll pass. So we go to classification of entrepreneurs. Sorry. So we have innovating entrepreneurs. We have adaptive or imitative. So if you are asked on types of, if you're asked to explain, differentiate between an innovative and an imitative entrepreneur. Innovative and an imitative. So what you do, look for your own words. So you don't have to, you know, in some things, like for example, if you're doing law, there are things you have to say what the book says, like what Constitution says about that law of who versus who. You have to say as it was said back then. But for this one, if you asked difference between an innovative and an adaptive entrepreneur, you think, what is innovation? it's coming up with new things. So put it in your own words. Sawa. Yeah, bora, you bring out the concept of innovative. He comes up with ideas and he brings in new things. Then imitative, they just copy others. Sawa. So you just bring out, as long as you bring out that difference, use your own English. Because actually, what I've noticed is that most people, entrepreneurship, they find it tricky because they're trying to look for the words that are in the book, but use your own words. As long as the concept is there, you will get it. Then now the only confusing thing about in this classification of entrepreneurs is usually Fabian versus drone. Fabian versus drone entrepreneurs. So for these two entrepreneurs, they don't change easily. They want to continue with how they've been doing things. But for this Fabian, let me use an example. Maybe someone has a shop and they've been using cash. Now they've been told there's this new Lipa na M-Pesa thing. So for these two, they'll oppose that change. They don't want that change. But the difference is that this Fabian, he will adopt it finally. If he realizes that he's making losses because of not adapting or adopting the new technology, he will make the change. But for this drone, they would rather run out of business than adopt that change. So this is the only confusing term I find. But for the others, the explanation is in the name, like innovative, they innovate, adaptive, they adapt, craft entrepreneurs, craft, they use their own craft, they use their own skills. Sawa. Opportunistic, they realize, come on, these guys were selling masks, making masks, they just found an opportunity in COVID. You see? Yeah. So that's another good thing of entrepreneurship. It's something you can reason out. Inventor, they invent. Pattern, they identify a pattern. It's just, that is easy, I'm sure. That one you can get. So that's the only tricky thing, Fabian and drone. Then we go to characteristics of entrepreneurs. These are another question that they like, which I always find very easy, because it's also like you need to ask yourself, what skills do you need to be an entrepreneur? First, you need to be innovative. You need to be creative. Sawa? Yeah, you need, because you'll need to talk to people. You need to have positive self-esteem. So whenever you are asked a question, don't be in a rush to just write answers zenye ulisoma kwa kitabu. And don't leave blank spaces. Just fill in those things. So characteristics of entrepreneurs, you have their risk takers, they're optimistic. You need to be a good decision maker. Interpersonal skills is also very important, because you'll need to bring an accountant and an IT person and make them work together. So you need those interpersonal skills. Okay, then you have advantages and disadvantages. That one also, you can be asked, like, what are the advantages of entrepreneurship? So that one, you usiseme, like, I've never seen that thing anywhere. Just ask yourself. Always put yourself in the mind of the entrepreneur if you ask an entrepreneurship question. So you get the profits, you get the freedom. So yeah, because like if you compare between self-employment and entrepreneurship, for the entrepreneur, they're bringing other people to work for them. But for the self-employed, if you don't show up at work that day, kazi and delay. So you're limited in terms of freedom and everything. Higher. So there was something else. Yeah, innovation. So the other things you can do. Yeah, this creative process. So you have creative process. It's another very critical thing. So for creative process, it has five stages. So you have, first is idea germination. You have idea germination, you have preparation stage, incubation, illumination, and verification. So if you're asked a process, creative process, so mostly in this unit, we have two processes. We have creative process and another one is business life cycle. Those are two processes that you can be asked. And I'll show you how you don't have to cram all these things. So you have idea germination, you have preparation, you have incubation, so creative process, you know what is creativity? Creativity, you're just coming up with something new. So if you're asked to give the creative process, we have idea germination. So what is idea germination? This is whereby the idea comes in you. You are like, we can do this differently. Sawa? Yeah, kitu tu imekuja kwa akili yako. That is idea germination. Then in preparation, you start researching, like, is it done elsewhere? Unaanza sasa kuresearch, kujua like, naweza implement aje and everything. That is preparation. Then incubation is whereby you just keep quiet with the idea, unaacha it's like germination, unaacha grow in you. You kind of ponder on it, you're not acting on it, you're just keeping it in you. Sawa? Then illumination is where you get, it's that aha moment where you realize a process, we can implement it this way, this way, this way. That is illumination. Because illumination is in light. Illumination is light. So you get to see like where kulikuwa na black spots, you are like, how will I do this and this? You get to know how you can do it. Then verification, sasa una implement. Sawa? Yeah. So it is the idea it's something that flows. It's not like you just take processes from anywhere. Germination, preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. Then you have barriers to creativity. Barriers to creativity. This one, you have fear of making mistakes. So you can have an idea, but you're afraid of making mistakes. You have cultural blocks, living in dreams, lack of exposure. So for this creative process, you get that there are some people, you see them even in the news everywhere. Someone is from the rural areas, has come up with something very creative, but haijawapeleka mahali because they lack exposure. Unaona? Yeah, you're very creative, but you don't have exposure. Ama your culture doesn't allow things. You're afraid of making mistakes. So once you start thinking that way, this entrepreneurship will be very easy. Okay, then I also have some past papers where I had highlighted the important things. Yeah, so like this one was a question. It was asking, highlight 4 pitfalls likely to be experienced by an entrepreneur in developing countries. Have you understood the question? Highlight 4 pitfalls likely to be experienced by an entrepreneur in developing countries. So, so for someone who's not attended this class, kwanza watashtuliwa na jina pitfall, but they're like, I've never heard that things elsewhere. But the thing is, unajiuliza, you're an entrepreneur in a developing country. So yeah, you always try to interpret the question that way, like simplify it. Entrepreneurship should not be hard. What challenges will an entrepreneur face in a developing country? So the things that you know, you've had them: insufficient capital, government barriers, lack of infrastructure or poor infrastructure. Hizo zote, corruption, insecurity. Hizo ni vitu you can come up with even in exams. Sindio? Right? Yeah. Then, okay. Then we have this one, what I was talking about. Describe the developmental stages of a business. This is also something they like. It's called the business growth cycle. So in business life cycle, the first one is always idea generation. So for you to start a business, you must first get the idea of what business am I going to start. Then after you've gotten the idea, you go to the startup stage. So in the startup stages whereby you get an office, you register, you get a license. So yeah. Then growth. In growth, you'll start adding clients. You start looking for newer markets. So yeah. So you see, it's a cycle. It's a cycle that should, it should just flow. Idea generation, you come up with the idea. Startup, you can't start without an idea. You can't grow without starting. Sawa. Yeah. Then you have expansion. Now, after you started growing, now you start expanding. You have more clients. So now maybe you open a branch elsewhere in another county. That is now what you're calling expansion. Then you have slowdown. So in this slowdown is whereby you've expanded, or it reaches a point now people are looking for new things, yeah, kuna products zingine zimetokea. So that is what you're calling slowdown. Sa hiyo ndio inaisha, or slowdown or decline stage. Yeah. So this is business growth life cycle. So in other books, if you read different sources, inaweza kupatia different names, but the idea is still the same. Like, even if they use here they can call it the creative process, because idea generation, you're going through it. You're generating an idea by first going through the creative process. But in real sense, the concept should remain. Whichever word you use, the concept should remain that you start by getting the idea, start the business, you grow, you expand, then you decline. Then now they can ask you, so wanaweza decide, because people know this life cycle, let us twist it. So like you asked, how will a business avoid the decline stage? So because we've said that, so initially inafaa ku mean that every business will eventually decline, which is not always the case. So what steps do businesses take to avoid decline? So unaweza sema they diversify. You come up with new products. Sawa? Yeah, you change the team. Vitu mingi sana. Sawa? Yeah, so they can ask you like, which steps will you go through in all this? So yeah, just you just think. So mostly inakuanga decline there. How will you avoid decline? Because especially say in Kenya, most businesses are failing. So you say you look for capital, you can diversification of product, hiyo ndio kwanza ifai kukosa in your answers, because that is one thing that ensures you remain in the market. You look for new markets, you bring in new stuff. You're trying to change things. You rebrand. Sawa? Yeah. So in this one, there are no right or wrong answers. You just have to, as long as your answer makes sense, you'll get the points. Yeah. So usiogope ku reason out. So that one we are done. Then we have business idea. In also something else they like asking, sources of business ideas. So yeah, sources of business ideas. So so in this one, also in the sources of business ideas, inakwanga tuna hizi fixed answers mostly. You have your brainstorm. You can brainstorm with your friend, you know, you're just talking and you realize, kumbe we can do this. You brainstorm. You can do surveys. You can attend all these easy showgrounds and trade fairs. Watu wakienda shows, you can go, you visit a booth and then they give you a business idea. Yeah. Then training and experience. So unaweza kuja hapa, you read CPA, you're done and you get a business idea. You can start your audit firm or anything like that. Yeah. So we've talked about brainstorming, survey, training, trade exhibitions. Then you can also get through observation. You can just be observing, then you're like, watu viatu zao ziko chafu, we can start something. Ama you can just start selling masks or umbrellas. You just get, wherever you get an idea is there. Then you have also hobbies and talents. So people who draw, you can decide to make your talent a business. Yeah, so that one, hiyo najua haitawalemea. Okay. So that one is that. Then we talk about, we can be asked about technology. There is a topic in entrepreneurship and technology. So you can be asked on the negative impacts of technology. So negative impacts of technology. So in technology mostly, you know, you need someone to run it. You need the skills. So like, for example, starting an online class, you need to buy a camera, you need to get someone who has the skills. You see, those are all in real sense ni negative impacts because ni cost hauko una expect. Yeah. Then there can be resistance to change. Watu hawataki ku change. It can be abused by employees. Then there can be data loss. Yeah, all that. Then something else, difference between utility and design patent. This one I've especially seen it in many past papers, design versus utility patent. So first thing, what is a patent? Do you know what is a patent? Have you heard the word patent? Have you heard the name patent? What is it? What do you think it is? Umesikia tu? Sawa. So a patent is if you come up with an idea or something, maybe I come up with what? With a new pen. Maybe pen yangu it can do something. Okay, I couldn't come up with something. So pen, maybe I came up with a new pen. So your pen, to prevent people from copying it, I will get a patent which blocks other entrepreneurs from copying my idea. So yeah, so a patent is a restriction given to other investors to protect, or inventors, not investors, inventors. It protects the inventor. So if I come up with an idea, nitaendea patent, I'm given for like 20 years, or maybe, okay, let me give a better example. Nimeleta dawa ya COVID. Nimekuja na dawa ya COVID. So to prevent other people ati mi nimekuwa lab, research and I've come up with that. Now you want to start copying, I will get a patent. Sawa. Then that patent will make me like, ni mimi tunaweza tumia hiyo idea for like 20 years. Then after that, it will be now be open. Because now, after that time, already nisha feel, yes, I did something. So that is what a patent is. So now in design and utility, so design iko tu hivyo, like it protects the design, but in utility it protects the usefulness. So like for example, design patent, kama hiyo chupa ya Coke, hiyo chupa ya Coca-Cola, it is patented. Huwezi pata chupa ingine kama hiyo. That is now a design patent. Like hawaja patent ati usitengeneze chupa. Bora don't use their design. In utility, it is the use. So which example can I use? Okay, in utility is just the use. Like you can use a design, but usitumie ile kazi yenye hiyo kitu ametengeneza inafanya, usikopi hiyo. Sawa? So for design is just the outward design. For the utility is the usefulness of that product. Yeah. So that is that. Then we have plant patent also. So for the plant one is whereby you can realize a plant has some medicine or something, medicinal use, so you can patent it. So plant is just plant. So I've talked about design, utility, and plant. I hope everyone has understood. Yeah. So that is that. Then we also talk about trade secrets. So for trade secrets, they are almost similar to patents, but here there is no like government intervention. So for patent, you have an idea, government protects you. No one can copy it. You can sue them. But for the trade secrets, ni nyinyi tu you decide you won't expose it. Kama venye Coca-Cola is also another good example. Like the ingredients that are used, it's a trade secret. Hawajai expose uko nje. Sawa? So that is what a trade secret is. So I believe if you know what something is, if you are asked questions that are surrounding that area, you can be able to answer them. Yeah. So like for example, there's a question here, how to protect trade secrets. So you can train employees, you can control information, you can patent also, you can regular change of passwords, use of security. Hizi ni vitu mnaweza jua, you know, like wanasemanga sijui the Coca-Cola thing is in a big safe. So unaona hiyo ni use of security, change of passwords, that is unaficha hiyo documents. Yeah. Then you have business networking. So for business networking, so business networking is just you get to know more people. So ni kama venye wewe umekuja hapa, you've met people you didn't know. That is just networking. So if you're an entrepreneur, you meet new suppliers and everything. That is networking. So advantages to you is that it will help you get ideas. It will help you enlarge your market. It will give you maybe that person knows a cheaper manufacturer. So those are the advantages. So I'm just highlighting them so that you get the concept. The concept is the most important thing. Then after that, you can be able to answer the questions. So then here we have a question. Discuss 5 roles of entrepreneurship in economic development. So 5 roles of entrepreneurship in economic development. No. So like how will entrepreneurship help an economy to develop or grow. Yeah, so we have inaleta hizo pesa, income, unaona. As an entrepreneur, you'll have to pay tax. Sawa. Yeah, so itasaidiana hiyo. Then you'll also create jobs. Yeah, isn't it like never usiaiona ati an answer is so basic. You go back to those basics and you give them. So yeah, you'll create jobs, you will add to national income, you will increase government revenue, then you'll bring new technology. Like if we didn't have Safaricom, hatungekuwa na M-Pesa, you see? So they're the ones who brought the new technology. Then there is also something called social responsibility. So for social responsibility, this is where a business inaanza like for example, when SportPesa was here, they were supporting the youth. In youth teams, they support them, they give them balls and everything. So that is social responsibility. So this social responsibility, you can be asked so many questions around it. So the first thing is, what is social responsibility? So it's just that, like a business giving back to the community. So yeah, so a business giving back to the community. So you can be asked like, what is the advantage of social responsibility to a business? So unaweza sema so like it enhances the image of the company. So unaona ukiona kampuni inasaidia au vijana wa hapo kwenu, you kind of like it, so uta purchase their products and everything. So yeah, enhance the image of the business. Then it also protects them from more government regulations. If the government sees you're doing social responsibility, hawata add tax and everything. So those are some of the advantages. So the first thing is knowing what is social responsibility. Yeah. So that one, I think we are good. That topic. Then there's another thing on franchising. Let me get it. Yeah, so you have something called franchising and buyout. So for franchising, so the best thing about this thing is that we have ready examples which you know. So for franchising is whereby you use a brand, a big brand, to establish like small businesses, like KFC. KFC is not Kenyan. You just get, now the one who started KFC and a franchise, he allows you to use his recipe and everything. So that is now franchising. Now in franchising, kuna two terms. Kuna franchiser and we have franchisee. So a lot of questions can be asked around this. So the first thing that I need you to know is get the concept of franchising. So franchising, we've said it's a brand. It has been started by the franchiser. The franchisee wants to use the name of the franchiser. Sawa. So anapewa jina atumie. Sawa. So you can be asked what are the benefits to the franchiser. So benefits is that one, he doesn't have to, his time, anapata hiyo freedom. He doesn't have to start the business. Then for the franchisee, he's using an established name. Unaona, you don't have to start from scratch. If you start a KFC somewhere, you don't start advertising it and everything. Watu wakiona tu jina wanaijua. You see? Yeah. So you're already starting from something that is established. Then you also get the advantage of, if you're advertising, for example, like you can't start advertising ati uweke kwa TV KFC Nairobi, you just advertise it as a brand. So you get those costs are cut in terms of that. Then you get the experience of the franchisor. Anakusaidia cause you know it's his name. He doesn't want that business to fall. So he'll give you his experience, atakusaidia na hizi legal things, sawa? Yeah. Then for the disadvantages, the initial cost is usually very high. To get that person to allow you to use their name, the initial cost is very, very high. So that is that. Then for the disadvantage to the franchisor, you don't have control. So someone can amefungua KFC yake but they're cooking bad chicken. Unaona na kuharibia hiyo jina as the franchisor because you don't have a lot of control. So the first thing is understanding that franchisor is the owner giving it to the franchisee. Then if you ask question around that, you can be able to answer. Let me see if I highlighted a question they had asked. Yeah, so there was a question here. Which are the sources of franchise-related revenue to a franchisor? Sources of franchise-related revenue to a franchisor. So like they're asking you, so now the franchisor has allowed the franchisee to use his name. Where will he get the money from? Where the revenue ataitoa wapi? So the first one I've talked about is, let's just discuss this question, is initial cost. So the franchisee will have to pay a very high franchising cost. So that is money to the franchisor. Then you have something called royalties. So in royalties is whereby franchisee, as he does his business, you have your cut. It's like your cut in the profits that he's making. So yeah, so as a franchisor, you're not just getting the initial cost, you'll also be getting some like frequent payments. That is what you're calling royalties. Yeah. Then we have products supplied. Products supplied. So very good example is KFC. So there's this, they always say they use a secret recipe, those herbs and everything. So those herbs, they are coming from franchisor to franchisee. So the franchisee will have to pay for that. So you need products supplied. So yeah, I hope you're getting. So products supplied to the franchisee will have to be paid for. Then you have promotional fees. Yeah, so promotional fees. So if KFC decide that they want to do a promotion, you as the franchisee, you'll have to chip in. So I want you to say that this one promotional fees, it can work in two ways. And I want you to have that logic so that it will be so easy to answer questions. So if you have this point of promotional fees, KFC, they want to advertise. So here we have two parties, franchisor, the owner, franchisee, those who have been allowed to use the name. So for these promotional fees, huyu franchisor, he will get promotional fees. Huyu franchisee ata contribute something to that promotion, si ndio? So hiyo ni advantage kwa franchisor, amepata some money. Then to the franchisee, it's an advantage cause ametoa tu pesa kidogo. Ingekuwa ni ana run the whole thing, it would have been much more expensive. So you've seen. So this point, it can run in as an revenue to the franchisor and as an advantage to the franchisee. Yeah, I hope you're getting that. Then you have service products applied and then also services. Services supplied. Yeah. So the franchisor can give services to this franchisee, like maybe legal advice and everything. So those will be some of the sources of revenue. So as long as you understand franchisor, franchisee, just get wild in your thinking and you'll get the answers. So we're done with that. Then you have this one. I'll not go deep into it. Okay, but this one you know. This one you know. The legal forms of a business. Actually, I'll just touch on it because you've done it in business law. On legal forms of a business, we have sole proprietorship. These are it's owned and managed by an individual. Then you have partnership. Partnership is where two or more people, they come together. Then you have company, where it's a legal entity which is separate from its owners. You've done that in business law. You're doing it? Okay. Yeah, so I won't dwell so much into that. Yeah, as long as you understand those legal forms. So you have limited liability company, private limited companies. Okay. So something that I had been asked to mention is differences between shares and debentures. So because this one can help you both in entrepreneurship and even business law. So differences between shares and debentures. So one thing we've said is that a company is a legal entity that is separate from its owners. So once you become a shareholder, you get ownership. You get a piece. It's as if you're given a piece of the company if you get a share. But if you buy a debenture, it's a loan. Debenture is a loan to the company. So get that difference. Shares, you become an owner. In debentures, you become a lender. Watakulipa hiyo pesa. For shares, you get to become part of the company. This one, you don't become part of the company. You become a lender. So once you know that concept, now we go to the differences. So for this one, if you are an owner, you get profit. You get to share in the profit. If you are a lender, you get to be given interest. That is number one. Then a share is a unit of capital. While a debenture is a unit of loan. So this one you get a piece of the capital, this one you give them a loan. That is another difference. Voting rights. A shareholder has voting rights. A debenture holder does not have voting rights. Three. So I'll give you like 5 of the easiest ones. So in a shares, you become an owner. This one, you become a creditor. So yeah, once you understand these two, then you'll be able to get it. You become an owner, you're given a unit of capital. Creditor, because it's a unit of loan. Then this one is a unit of capital, does not require security. this one is a loan, so requires security. Requires security. So yeah, like 5. You look for the rest, but they're not so many. They're like 7 or 8. So, but these ones should be enough if you get it. So we can continue. Roles we have, you can be asked. So let me now go through questions. So most of the things that you needed to understand I've highlighted. Now let's see some of the questions that can be asked. So you asked, give 5 roles that entrepreneurs could play as an innovator in an enterprise. So give 5 roles that entrepreneurs could play as an innovator in an enterprise. So the thing you need to ask yourself, and yeah, I've repeated this several times, is you need to understand what is the question trying to ask you. 5 roles that entrepreneurs could play as an innovator in an enterprise. So in short, swali nakuuliza, what is the role of innovators in an enterprise? If you know innovation is to bring in new things, then we just give answers that have new things. So they create new products, they create new customer demands because it's an enterprise. So once you understand the terms that are in a question, entrepreneur, you know who is an entrepreneur. Innovation, you know what is innovation. Enterprise, you know what is an enterprise. Now connect the dots. So they create new products, they create new customer demands, they create new brands, they help in product differentiation, build strong teams. So and they generate ideas. So yeah, as long as you know what the question is asking, you should be able to come up with answers. So yeah. Then then you have, give 5 factors that an entrepreneur will consider before going public. Before going public. So what do you understand by going public? What does it mean? So 5 factors that an entrepreneur will consider before going public. So the terms used there, we have entrepreneur and we have going public. Entrepreneur, I'm sure you know. Factors, you know. What is going public? You know? You bring it to more people. You? You're giving it the so going public, never to going public. But now the concept here is kwa public, kuna, what do we call it? These public companies. Public, do you know, have you been told the types of companies? We have private companies and we have public companies. Indio. Kuna all those differences, number of directors and everything. That is more of business law. So I want to go into that. But ukiulizwa going public, it's making it now iache kukua yako ikuwe now a public company. Sawa? So what are the factors that you will consider? But if you use the logic yenu, bado it will still work. Sawa? Yeah, because like so now explanation ndio ingeleta shida because you have the points, but now explanation may, because yeah, I always tell people that sometimes your answer is correct until you explain it. So point uko nayo, but you explain it and then you've made the answer to be wrong. So also when you're explaining stuff, if you ask describe, you have to be very careful about how you're describing it. But that does not mean you're limited. You just use your English, write stuff. So going public is now you're turning your business from maybe a self-employed or a small enterprise, sasa ikue kampuni. Sawa? Yeah. So one, unaangalia potential. So public inamaanisha unataka watu wa buy shares. Sawa? So like for example, when Safaricom was starting out, it was just a small company, haikuwa na shares and everything. Then there is that time they decided, let us go public. So mnaangalia the potential. One is potential. Like if you tell people to buy shares, will they buy? Will they buy those shares? So any potential of the business. Yeah, then you have the size. You can't have a company, it has like 3 employees and you want to go public. You have to check the size of the company. Then you have to check also what assets do you have. What assets do you have? Sawa. Then you have the market. You have market, we have internal controls. So we have potential, size, assets, market, internal controls. So if you get these questions, hata tuseme tu warudie hivyo tu, give 5 factors that an entrepreneur will consider before going public. Si ati uanze kujaribu kukumbuka like what did I say here, like potential, size, assets, market. You get as long as you get the concept of going public is company, turning it from a business now maybe to a public company, use your own English to get the point out. Sawa? Because hiyo ndio tunaonanga it limits so many people trying to remember, unapata umesahau internal controls, so you give 4 points, which is so wrong because hapo ni marks inapotea. Sawa? Yeah. Do you know what are internal controls? Am I explain? I explain. So internal controls is whereby you have, if you start a small business, if you're the one running a business, unaweza kuwa tu hata unapeangwa pesa, you just put it in your pocket. Sawa? But if you're going to go public, unahitaji internal control. So like unasema, once a customer comes in and pays, 1, no receiving cash. Lazima utumie M-Pesa. 2, lazima apewe receipt. Lazima, those are what you're calling internal controls. Sawa? Yeah. So, then you have factors which investors will consider before buying shares of a company. So, factors which investors will consider before buying shares of a company. So, let me show you something else that is interesting that I had also not seen. That some of the points that the first question I asked was 5 factors that an entrepreneur will consider before going public. We gave these points. Now there's another one that is asking it was in, I think, 2017 or something. Factors which investors could consider before buying shares. So when they're buying shares, when you're buying shares of a company, mostly zile vitu waliangalia ndio watoe ndio hata wewe utaangalia. Sawa? You will check the potential. You will check the size. You will check the assets. This one mostly no sana, but you will check also their internal controls. Sawa? So those points are overlapping. So factors which an investor could consider before buying shares, they'll check the potential for growth, they'll check the financial base. So financial base is assets and size. They'll check the management, internal controls. They'll check the reputation and also diversification. So yeah, I think with that one you're good in that. Then so sources of business ideas, that one we've said. Something else that I was to cover was business incubation. Business incubation. So for business incubation, so you find that most businesses, they fail within the first like 2 years or 1 year. Like kuna ile lifespan. With the one that we talked about, the last one was decline, and most businesses actually go through that cycle. So, but now there's something we call business incubation. So for business incubation, you know, like an incubation is ile to an incubator. Incubator is you just take maybe chicks or eggs, you put them in an incubator, they hatch. A child has been born before their time, maybe like 8 months, they are put in an incubator for 1 month, ndio grow. So an incubator is something that provides those adequate conditions for the growth of something. So you bring the eggs, put them in an incubator, inazipea hiyo that heat, that moisture that is necessary for them to hatch. So these kids, even their lungs have not grown and everything. So they are put in an incubator under oxygen and food, they grow. So it's the same for business incubation. So you've started a business, you're out here in the streets, whatever, it becomes hard. So what these business incubators do, they give you a platform. They give you a platform, they give you maybe like finances, skills. So it's the same thing. They're giving you these, they're providing the conditions necessary for success. Yeah. So we have those types of business incubators. So we have the first one is classical incubators. Then you have export processing zones. So let me list them, then we'll go through them one by one. Export processing zones, EPZs, these ones, I'm sure some people have heard about them. Then you have science and technology. Science and technology incubations. Then we have internet incubators. Yeah, so we'll go through those five types of, so these are types of business incubators. So these classical incubators, they just provide the classical, they just provide the things that an incubator should provide. So nothing special, like they provide the infrastructure. So they provide maybe the space that you need. Like you get some of these, what do you call them? These Maasais who make these shukas and everything, they're given like a place, you know, they provide you with the advertising, with the money, the bids and everything. So that is a classical incubator. They just provide you with the necessaries, the infrastructure, the premises. That is a classical incubator. Then for the export processing zone, so these ones deal with, they incubate businesses that are meant for export. Yeah, so if you're making things that are meant to be exported, you're brought in one place. Then you're provided with very many things like this tax exempt and everything. Then you have science and technology incubations. This one is just in the name. If you have something related to science, so for them, they specialize in science and technology. Then internet incubators, these ones, they offer virtual incubation, yeah. So they'll maybe give you the skills online and everything, so, and the market online. Then university related incubators, this one is mostly for these science universities like JKUAT, Dedan Kimathi. They have these incubators. Like if you're a student in that college or university, they incubate your idea. So as a student, they give you that incubation. So you've gotten? Okay. Yeah. So we continue. Then you can be asked, what factors will you consider when selecting a business incubator? So this was in November 2018. What are the factors you will consider when selecting a business incubator? So we've talked about the types. Now, what are the factors that you'll consider? So you'll consider which services are they giving you, the quality of the services. Those are 2 points: services, quality of the services, success rate. So have they worked with other businesses and how was it? You will check the management. You'd check the procedures and policies. You'd check the skills. Yeah, so those are the things that you check for. Then part B was asking, which are the services that are offered by incubators? Which are the services that are offered by incubators? So you say they provide advice, they provide the finances, they provide networking, marketing, all those things that a business needs. They will provide you with equipment, consultancy, IT support, mentorship, insurance. Everything that a business needs should be provided in an incubator, because we said that an incubator is a place where businesses are given ideal conditions. So incubator should provide everything. So that is that. Then another question was asking, which are the reasons? So we're almost winding up. So the question was asking, which are the reasons why startup businesses fail? So as I said that generally, most businesses do not reach the 2-year mark. So why do they fail? So even this question, it's a question you don't have to have attended a class to answer it, as long as you just ukubali tu reason out. Financial limitations, limited knowledge, unsupportive policies, inaccessibility to market, inaccessibility to information, weakness in management skills. Yeah, so all those, mostly financial and limitations in knowledge, and government policies also play a role in businesses failing. So, yeah. Then let me take you back to incubators. There's a very interesting question here. So these ones, I hope you've gotten the types of incubators. Then another type of incubator, you have public and privately sponsored incubators. So an incubator can either come from the government or from private entities. Like sometimes these KCB, they have the Jiajiri challenge. So that is like an incubator. You bring in your business idea, they give you the money, they look for a mentor for you. So that is like a privately sponsored. Then for the publicly sponsored, it is by the government. So the question is asking, what are the differences between privately sponsored and publicly sponsored incubations? So, so the first thing that you should talk about is in management. So in management, so for this one, the private ones, they'll be managed by owners and employees. So I've given the example of the KCB one. It will be managed by the manager of KCB and maybe the person they've put in charge of that. For the public one, the government will appoint an executive board. So for this one, it's the owners. For the public one is a board appointed by the government. Then for time limit, we have time limit. So in terms of time limit, these ones, they allow people to stay longer than the public ones. So let me look for an example of a public one. Yeah, so an example, though it's not like an incubation really, but it kind of worked like so. It was like the Kazi Mtaani, where people are brought in, you're given jobs by the government for a specific time, then you go. So in real sense, it's because it should be you're brought in, you're given, because you have skills, they incubate your business, but then most youths in Kenya, they don't have those skills. So they were just being given like manual work. So in a in upper. So here we are using, privately, we are using the Jiajiri KCB. This one we are going to use Kazi Mtaani example. So management, managed by a board, which has been selected by the government. This one is managed by owners. Then time limit, that program did not run for so long because everyone wants in, it's competition. So this one is shorter, this one is longer duration. These ones are using their money, so they have. Then also, in terms of capacity, So for this one, the capacity, they can provide more capacity. This one is limited because they want to take in as many people as possible. But for this one, they can take in few people and give them everything. So, yeah. Then we have, what else can I say? Rent charge. So for some incubators, they give rent charge. So if they decide to give a rent charge, for the private one will be so high. But for the public one, because it's the government, pretty cheap. So those ones, I think they're enough for the incubation. So as long as you understand what is incubation. So my objective today was getting you to understand some of these terms, because once you understand the terms, then you'll be able to answer any kind of question as long as you understand the terms and you're not afraid of giving your answers. Yeah. So like if swali kikuja and unafikiria, the first answer is poor infrastructure. So what happens is most students wanaona poor infrastructure. Hiyo swali inakaa, hiyo answer inakaa very easy. It's a primary school answer. They don't want to give it. Mtu anakosa marks. Ama profit, national income. So then I was told you've been taught communication. So there was just one thing that I wanted to point out, which I thought was very important. And it was on the formal channels of communication. Formal channels of communication. So for the formal channels of communication, we have vertical, we have horizontal, and we have diagonal. So these are formal channels of communication. So in this one, vertical, so I'm going to use very easy diagrams. So this is top management. This is low level or whatever, let me not. Top management, low. So I need you to understand this. So this is vertical. Vertical is this. So information is flowing top, bottom, or bottom up. So it's from maybe someone who cleans the office talking to a manager, or a manager talking to a CEO, or a CEO talking to whatever, security guard. So it's vertical. People who are in different levels in terms of that hierarchy. They're in different hierarchies. Then for the horizontal, they're in the same hierarchy, like a manager in accounting talking to a manager in some other ICT department. Yeah. So like different managers talking, two employees talking, they're in the same level. Then for the diagonal, it's different levels, different departments. So this was different levels. This was same level, same department. This one is different levels, different departments. I hope that diagram made it easier. So yeah, then we have something else that we call grapevine. For grapevine is, so I would assume a grapevine is, it just grows. So in the same way, for grapevine, form of communication is a form of communication that does not have a lineage. Ni ile, you hear a story in the office, but you can't even trace who started it. Mimi nilisikia na huyu. It's a form of rumors. Aina formal communication. Because if this one, someone asked you, umetoa wapi information, you'll say, I got it from top management. I got it from here. I got it from here. But for this one, it's all intertwined. So, yeah, which is, it has its own advantages because you need some form of informality sometimes in the office and in businesses. So it's also important. It reduces the formality in business. Okay, so we've finished with that. Then as we finish, we have something else called outsourcing. Outsourcing. So in outsourcing is whereby a business looks for a third party to do something they were supposed to do. So the concept here is involvement of a third party. So very good example. You want what? You want Safaricom to install home fiber for you in your house. Instead of them sending the engineers, they look for an ICT company and they outsource that from them. So the network is theirs, but all those installation things, they outsource, they get them from a third party. Yeah, so once you know that, you can be able to maneuver through these questions, which are the benefits of outsourcing, challenges of outsourcing, reasons for outsourcing. Yeah, so the one in ufai kusahau, of course, is cost saving. That is the most important thing. Cost saving, now it reduces the pressure because now it's upon the other company to deal with deadlines and everything. Safaricom wanachukua tu hiyo pesa, then they take their profit and then they leave the other company to do their thing. So yeah, so I can go through some reasons. They lower the operational cost, allow an organization to focus on what it's good at, and it improves the quality of products and services. So Safaricom, they can focus on providing network instead of now starting looking for good engineers and everything. For the benefits, cost saving, the same, focus on its main business, quality improvement, reduces time spent in supervision, and reduces time spent in training. They don't have to train engineers and everything. For the disadvantages, quality may be compromised. So the third party, that is the main disadvantage. Third party knows wewe huajui. So you know you've gotten your services from Safaricom. So the third party doesn't have, his image is not at stake. So you'll have quality may be compromised. The enterprise loses control, inflexibility, and everything. Sawa. Then, while we are still in this outsourcing thing, kuna kitu inaitwa backward and inward integration. Backward and forward, sorry. So, backward and forward integration. So for backward integration, a company takes processes that are uko nyuma. So mostly it's manufacturing and everything. Then for forward integration, they take over distribution. So for understandability, let me use another example. So we're talking about backward integration. So I am an electronics, I have an electronics company or business in Nairobi, and I want to do backward integration. So what I will do is that I will start now manufacturing. Instead of buying those sockets and everything, I start manufacturing the sockets myself. That is backward. Nimechukua mtu ako nyuma yangu kwa hii supply chain. Then for the forward, so I'm supposed to get those stuff from Nairobi and take them to Nyeri or Kisumu and everything. Now, instead of using other people for that, I take over distribution. So if you ask a question on backward and forward, just think it's which process are you taking over in the supply chain. So backward, unachukua nyuma, mostly manufacturing. Forward, you take the one that is ahead, so mostly distribution. Yeah. So mostly advantages, cost saving, you're able to get more control of your product's quality. Yeah. So we can finish with the we can finish with e-commerce. So we have something called business amalgamation. So business amalgamation is just a broad term when you're talking about franchises, mergers, acquisitions. So business amalgamation is just a broad term for describing all these processes. Franchises, that one we've covered. Mergers, you just merge with a business willingly. Then acquisition, you take over the business. You buy them out. Then for e-commerce, questions that can be asked is, how has the internet changed how businesses work? So that one you cannot be able to go through it because they can ask a variety of questions, but as long as you understand like e-commerce in a idea in terms of it reduces costs, it enhances the public awareness, you know, you're able to get more people to see your brand, you're able to get more resources. So yeah, that one, I think you can do it. You've asked benefits of e-commerce, you have cost reduction, you have reduction in time spent. Yeah, so it's all that. So communication skills, that one we won't do. That one I've been told you've covered it pretty well. So yeah, I can finish with this final question I'd seen here. I had highlighted it. So a repeat question, factors to consider when selecting business incubators. That one we've done. Benefits of incubation, we've done. Lateral communication, a question. Oh, so lateral, someone is asking lateral communication, what it means. So lateral communication is the horizontal one. lateral is horizontal. It's another name for horizontal communication. So I hope you remember what we said about horizontal communication. People who are in the same department, same level. Diagonal, different levels, different levels, different departments. Vertical, so the same, wanaweza tumia vertical, upwards, downwards, no. Yeah, so for vertical we said it can go either way. It can be CEO talking to manager, manager talking to CEO. So downwards, forwards, no, not forwards, sorry. Downwards, upwards, these are all vertical. So you can use either downwards, upwards, vertical, same thing. So lateral, horizontal, same thing. Then, who is that question? Then the innovation process is the same as creativity process. So if you want to come up with something, you have to go through the creativity process. So innovation, creativity, same thing. Sources of business ideas, sources of innovation opportunities, same thing. So, yeah. So you have to be, that's why I told you, ukisoma swali, before you uchanganywe na hizo terms wametumia, ask yourself, what are they trying to ask? Ukiulizwa, like that one nenye nimesema, what is give the innovation process. So unajiuliza, go through innovation, you have to first be creative. Innovation is creating, so you have to go through the creative process. Sources of innovation opportunities, sources of business ideas. So, same thing. So don't usichanganyishwe nazo. Then methods of generating business ideas, same thing. Answers are the same. Let's see. Then I talked about social responsibility. Social responsibility, I used the example of SportPesa. They were giving teams balls and everything. They are paying their coaches. So social responsibility, if you are asked what are the advantages of social responsibility, ama wakuulize, what is the advantage of a business being socially involved? Same thing. So, yeah. So that's why getting what is the question asking, very important. Those changanyishwe na the wording, because sometimes you can have the answer but you misunderstand the question. Yeah, so we'll finish with this risk management. So every enterprise goes through risk. So every enterprise goes through risk. Some risks you take as an entrepreneur, some risks they find you in the enterprise. So, yeah, so we have some types of risks. So in types of risks, we have, so let me list them here. So you have these types of risks. You have liquidity risk. So liquidity ni ile pesa ina flow, the cash flow. So liquidity risk is the risk that your expenses will be more than the income. So operational risk is the risk that you will cease operating. Social risk is the risk that for a business to operate, it must be accepted by the community. So if the community decides, like for example, a time when people decided to boycott Safaricom, that's a social risk. People decide, no, we're not going to work with you. Then sovereign risk. Sovereign is a nation, country. So if a country has these maybe political violence and everything, that is a sovereign risk. Your political instability, it is bringing the sovereign risk. Then for the capital risk is the risk of losing the money you've invested. So those are the risks that are involved. Then also in social risk, you can also include that for a business to run, everyone has their own social life. So as an entrepreneur, if you start a business and you're working maybe to 12 to 1, your social life will be affected. So we finish with categories of how you can risk management techniques. So the risk has come. How do you manage it? So one, you can avoid the risk. So if you want to establish a new product, you can decide to avoid the new product. Then you can decide to, so you can do risk reduction. So in risk reduction, maybe you can do a market survey. You realize what wanapenda your product, so yeah, so that is risk reduction. You can either avoid it, reduce it, or risk transfer. Risk transfer is where you now remove the risk from yourself. So how you can do risk transfer is by maybe doing then we said you involve a third party akufanyie hiyo kazi. Sawa? Yeah. So I think we can end there. With that, I think you're good for exam. Thing to know is, as I've said and repeated again, ukienda kwa exam, usikue limited kwa mindset like I want to remember the 5 points you are given in class. So if you remember 3 you are given in class, tafuta zako mbili. Understand the question and things will be easy. You'll be able to get it.